el centro de la pampa vive un pimiento.
Hello, my name is Patrick Barnard. Welcome to the 5th edition of the Pimento Report. I'm speaking to you from Westmount Park, which is only a very, very small distance from downtown Montreal. It's late November, and just this month, a very important man came to speak at Montreal's Dawson College, which is only about 10 minutes from here. The name of this man is Dr. Shiv Chopra. He is Canada's most famous whistleblower. He's been called a hero by many people. Now, Dr. Chopra used to work for Health Canada, and he and two colleagues, Margaret Hayden and Gérard Lambert, were responsible, along with their co-workers, for seeing to it that bovine growth hormone was not approved in Canada. That was a major step, many people believe, for the health of everyday Canadians. That was in 1999. The reward of these three people, of Dr. Chopra, Margaret Hayden, and Gérard Lambert, it seems, was that in 2004, these three people who protected our health were fired by Health Canada for insubordination. Dr. Chopra is going to tell his story, and it's going to be his version of the importance of what he is doing. So the Pimento Report would like to introduce you to Dr. Shiv Chopra.
Well, it started back in 1988 when a company, not Monsanto, brought an application to get the bovine growth hormone approved in Canada. It was a competing company, Eli Lilly. So not too many people know that there were two companies. Originally there were four, but these two companies remained. And so it was the second company's application that landed on my desk. And the idea was that the recombinant bovine growth hormone and the natural bovine growth hormone are substantially equivalent. This is a term that companies use all the time. That, in other words, so what's the difference between the natural and the genetically modified product? And that wasn't the point. My point was, even if you gave naturally produced growth hormone, then it could stimulate other hormones and could produce damage to the cow and ultimately to people. So I rejected the idea. I said more tests should be done. This went on, and then, without my knowledge, my letter was sent to the company Eli Lilly. Meanwhile, the US FDA did their own some kind of a study and said and declared that there's no difficulty, this is safe in every way. It's been tested by their own tests in rats, which is what I was saying. Years later, then we found, in fact, the tests had been done, and the tests by Monsanto, and the tests were positive, and the data that the company produced was sitting in our department under our noses and hidden and not actually reviewed. And all the questions that I had asked back in 1988 now were shown to be positive. This is now happening in 1997 in a report that I wrote together with three other people. Gérard Lambert was with me, and it was called the gaps analysis. In other words, are there any data gaps that the company should be asked to address? We found they had been addressed, and in fact they were all positive. And that report ultimately became a central piece for the Senate investigation in Canada, where three of us were asked, a number of people were asked to go and testify before the Senate committee. And it was then determined that it was all hidden in the United States and in Canada, and this was wrong. And ultimately, the drug was not approved in Canada. It was not banned, but it was not approved. My question to myself was, what truth am I going to tell the one I know or what the minister is telling me to tell? And that was my conflict.
I did attend a meeting back approximately about, I believe, 1989-90, and Monsanto representatives had met with myself and my supervisor, Dr. Drennan, and my director, Dr. Messier. And at that meeting, an offer of $1 to $2 million was made by the company, and I don't know any more about what became of that, but my director indicated after the meeting that he was going to report it to his superiors.
When were you and Margaret Hayden and Monsieur Lambert dismissed?
On July 14th, 2004, because after, or even before, we were called before the Senate. I had received a gag order that I cannot speak anywhere about any subject without the permission of a court. And so I challenged that. And Margaret Hayden also received an instruction not to speak about any matter to anybody, anywhere. So two of us challenged this under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the federal court. And we won. In September 2000, we won. The court ruled that not only did we have the right to blow the whistle, we actually had the obligation as public service officials to blow the whistle in matters relating to public health and safety. So it was our duty to have done what we did.
But if you were carrying out your duty, why were you fired in 2004, 4 years after that ruling?
All three of us were fired simultaneously on the same day, while all three of us were on stress leave because they were now pressuring us to pass other drugs of questionable safety. And we were saying pressure on us is coming from the Privy Council of Canada, which means a series of prime ministers, ministers, deputy ministers, the whole Privy Council. They were being lobbied by the companies, and they were pressuring us to pass drugs of questionable safety. That was the issue. And so once the federal court decision came, then a decision was made to get rid of me and whoever stands by me. And ultimately, 4 of us were left. At one time, 200 scientists from Health Canada wrote that what Health Canada was doing was dangerous. It should not be done. It would jeopardize public safety. Nobody paid any attention. Millions of dollars are being spent to keep us fired, or at least delay a conclusion to it. Meanwhile, the drugs that we did not recommend to be approved have all been approved, and the public is now paying very heavily in health damages occurring to them through food. If all this continues, if our water is contaminated, water table has fallen, if our food supply is contaminated with hormones, antibiotics, antimicrobial resistance, cancer, all these things are happening. I think time has come that people took this matter in their own hands. They wrote their own legislation. They challenged their parliament. They're going to have to put a stop to it. If it doesn't work, I'm certain it'll become like a Gandhian salt march. People will bring a stop to it because it's gone too far.
En el centro de la pampa vive un pimiento.
As of the date of this report, December 2008, the case of Dr. Shiv Chopra, Margaret Hayden, and Gerard Lambert is still before the court. This is Patrick Barnard saying goodbye for now from the Pimento Report.